Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show, episode number 290. Today we're talking about how the 80-20 rule can help increase your profits and productivity for Amazon sellers. So to talk with us is my 100% best friend, Rebecca. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited about this topic, and it's one that we've used in our own business for over a decade, I would say. And so it's really exciting to be able to talk about it with sellers today on this episode.
All right, well, let's get into it.
Welcome to our show today. Before we get all into the 80-20 rule, I want to make sure that 100% of our listeners, not just 80%, not just 20%, but 100% of our listeners know about our Full-Time FBA newsletter. We send you emails at least once a week, delivering to you important strategies and training to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon. All you got to do is go to fulltimefba.com/subscribe, enter your info, and you'll start getting emails about the latest Amazon FBA news, strategies, video walkthroughs, free workshop invitations, coupon codes, and so much more. We've got exclusive content that only goes out to the newsletter. And plus, if you subscribe today, we'll even throw in a few helpful Amazon FBA resources for free to help you move your Amazon business forward. Again, that link is fulltimefba.com/subscribe. So go there now, subscribe. Your Amazon FBA business will thank you for it. After you do that, come back and finish listening to the episode.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, let's get into the 80-20 rule, sometimes called the 80-20 principle or the 80-20 connection. And originally, it was called the Pareto principle because the first concept was introduced for the very first time by an Italian sociologist and economist, Vilfredo Pareto, way back in 1906. And you know, if you come up with something that was never before introduced, you get to name it. So he called it the Pareto principle, though it's better known today as the 80-20 rule. So Rebecca, what in the world is the 80-20 rule?
Well, to be concise, the 80-20 rule basically states that for many outcomes, roughly 80% of the consequences come from 20% of the causes. Vilfredo Pareto first realized that 80% of the wealth in England was held by 20% of the population. Then he started seeing this 80-20 rule almost anywhere. You can see it in so many places. So to bring some examples of the 80-20 rule in action in today's world, we can see that 20% of freeways in America get 80% of the traffic, or 20% of runners win 80% of the races. 20% of customers make 80% of the purchases, and the list can go on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. But please know that the 80-20 connection is not connected in, when it comes to all cause and effect situations. But for the majority of the things we experience in life, this 80-20 phenomenon is experienced enough times that it's worth noting and looking at to see if there is a way that we can use this 80-20 rule to help us make more profits on Amazon. That's what we're going to do today. So we're going to see if it can help us improve our overall productivity and investments and income. So let's jump right into how the 80-20 rule can help us as Amazon sellers.
We could possibly do several episodes on this topic, but let's just jump into some of the bigger ways you can use this 80-20 rule in your Amazon business. So to start off, most likely 80% of your profits on Amazon are coming from only 20% of your inventory. Many Amazon sellers only think about their inventory when they buy it for resale and almost never think about it again. They just set it and forget it. And if this is you, then you might be missing out on some really good opportunities for increased profits. Again, if 80% of your Amazon profits are coming from only 20% of your inventory, then what would happen if you're able to double or triple those inventory items that are currently only 20% of your inventory? I mean, I think that's what people would call doubling down.
Yeah, exactly.
What if you double down on those 20% of your inventory that are giving you 80% of your profits? So again, don't just assume that all of your inventory falls into these numbers, but run some actual reports yourself. If you're an Inventory Lab user, these reports are super easy to run and you can see for yourself. If you're not an Inventory Lab user, you can try it out for free for 30 days by going to fulltimefba.com/seller365. Since Inventory Lab is now part of the Seller 365 suite of tools. Currently, they're offering 10 tools at only one low monthly price.
Yeah, and seriously, it's a super low price for these 10 tools. In fact, you get all 10 tools at the same cost of what Inventory Lab alone cost before these 10 tools were combined into the Seller 365 suite of tools. Again, that link, fulltimefba.com/seller365. Okay, let's keep moving. So Rebecca said that most likely 80% of your profits are coming from only 20% of your inventory. But does anything else fall into the 80-20 rule? Oh yeah, we're just getting started, baby. Did you know that most likely 80% of the items that you're selling on Amazon come from roughly 20% of the categories on Amazon? Some of you might not have even run reports to see that this is true, but it's a good idea to run a category profitability report in Inventory Lab to see for yourself which categories are getting the most sales for your Amazon business.
Another 80-20 rule in action can be looking at the profitability of the stores you shop at to find inventory to sell on Amazon. It might be that 80% of your Amazon profits only come from 20% of the stores you source at. Again, Inventory Lab can help you run a report to see which stores are your most profitable or which ones have the highest ROI. When you know this information, you might try to source at those higher profit stores more often to help boost your profits.
Writing these reports, it's important because we could be missing out on profit-making opportunities if we just assume that we know our numbers, when we really might not. So run a supplier profitability report, run a category profitability report, and other reports that might help you see the 80-20 rule in action and respond appropriately with wiser, more informed Amazon sourcing decisions.
Okay, so those are 3 examples of inventory-related 80-20 rule situations that come up again and again in our Amazon businesses. Mm-hmm. But what are some other really important 80-20 rules for us to be looking out for? How about this one? When it comes to time management, 80% of our most needle-moving, money-making actions usually come from only 20% of the activities that we focus on in our Amazon business. So if you think about it, that means that 80% of what we're actually doing and spending time on in our Amazon business is only giving us about 20% of the profits.
Yeah, this one hurts. Personally, because one of my biggest pet peeves is wasting time. And if 80% of my Amazon business actions are only providing me with 20% of my results, then I really need to start changing what my priority actions and activities are. So what can we do to actually fix this? We've talked about this on a podcast before, but since we're almost 300 episodes in, I think it's worth mentioning again, and that is to do a time audit. This is something that Rebecca taught me early on in our marriage, and it's really helped me to maximize my time and how I use in order to increase the productivity of the time that I spend in my business and my life, really. So Rebecca, walk our listeners through what a time audit is.
So a time audit is a process of examining and analyzing how you spend your time. And it helps improve your productivity, efficiency, and overall time management. All you need is a pen and paper, or you could also use some sort of electronic device in your typing skills or your, pecking thumb. So what it involves is tracking all of your activities and the time spent on each action for a set period, usually a week or 2. So you basically write down all of the business activities and the time involved in each action. So for Amazon sellers, you would write down the time you spend sourcing for inventory, the time you process that inventory, the time you spend scrolling social media, because we all do it in one way or another.
Guilty.
Yeah. And the time you do this, the time you do that, write down all of the things that you do in your Amazon business working time. And write down the time that you spend doing those things, like the amount of time. So already I'm sure you can see how understanding how you actually use your time, then you can identify time wasters. You can find areas for improving your time management, and you know how to better align your time with your goals.
And I'll admit this, a time audit is not fun. And it actually might seem like a time waster, but I promise you, it is an excellent use of your time. And if you really only have to do it every once in a while to see the areas in which you can improve the time that you spend in your Amazon business, and once you get an idea of which business activities are actually having the most impact on your bottom line, then you start to use your time better and your business starts to grow and improve.
Another way you can use the 80-20 rule in your Amazon business is to think about how the 80-20 rule can apply to the tools or services you use and pay for in your Amazon business. It's highly likely that only 20% of the tools and services you use are actually helping you accomplish 80% of your business goals. That means that 80% of the tools and services you are paying for are only helping you out with 20% of your goals. We talked about doing a time audit to think through how you spend your time, but it's also a good idea from time to time to do a tool or service audit. Maybe there are tools that you're paying for that are not really helping you move your business forward that much, and you could actually save money by canceling some tools that are costing you too much, that 80%, and only helping you out a little for 20%.
Yeah, a tool or service audit is definitely a good idea, but don't just cancel a tool that you're using because it's only helping you out 20. But weigh the cost of the tool and if that cost is worth the 20% that you're getting out of it. Some tools can help replace tasks that you simply don't like to do or really don't want to do, and it makes it worth it to pay the cost so that you don't have to do that task that you don't like doing. And other tools might help you save a big chunk of time, so even if it's not accomplishing a bigger set of goals, as other tools are, maybe it frees up your time to work on more profitable tasks, then it might be a good idea to keep that tool.
So basically what you're saying is don't necessarily attach a dollar amount ROI to how much you're paying for a service or a tool, but look at the overall ROI, the overall return on your investment.
Yes, absolutely.
We can go on and on with more examples of the 80-20 rule in action during the life of an Amazon seller, and one day we'll probably revisit this 80-20 rule in a future podcast episode, but we know your time is valuable, so we'll leave you with a few final thoughts about the 80-20 rule in regards to your Amazon business.
Yeah, it's good to know when jumping into looking into the 80-20 rule in effect in your Amazon business that sometimes you'll find it's actually 90-10 or 75-25, but most of the time you're going to see 80-20 almost everywhere, and knowing that can be a useful tool in understanding and addressing those situations where a small percentage of causes, the 20%, have a disproportionately large impact on the outcomes, 80%. So by focusing on the most important 20%, one can often achieve significant results with the minimal effort. And so take the time to look at your numbers, make some informed adjustments, and see your Amazon business grow.
And if you're really wanting to see your Amazon business grow, we want to invite you to our upcoming free 5-day Amazon Profit Roadmap workshop that will kick off on May 12th. All you need to do to secure your spot is go to fulltimefba.com/roadmap. And for 5 days, we'll help outline for you the exact path you need to take to make a full-time income selling on Amazon. Even if you can't make the workshop live, you still get access to the replays, so make sure you're signed up. fulltimefba.com/roadmap. Sign up today and we'll see you in our next workshop. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. As always, all of the links that were mentioned and any show notes can be found at fulltimefba.com/290 because we're on episode number 290.
And next week on the show, we're going to be talking about why FBA helps you make way more money than FBM. And if you don't know what those letters mean, don't worry. We'll tell you next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.